Okay, welcome again to Wickerson Studios. It's late on Tuesday night. I'm just excited about uh, uh, kind of returning back to Grasshopper away from the Python a little bit and really seeing how things start to click as you go deep and then come back out of where you got started. Uh, what I have here is a little bit of homage to oops, yeah, this screenshot, which is basically ModeLab again in 2015 doing its basic introductory beginner Grasshopper. And it ends up with a nice 10 scripts that are ending and culminating with this gorgeous pattern. And in the end of it, they actually in their script suggest why not, it doesn't matter where I am, why not play with gates and dispatch, which is what I basically did. So I think I actually went a little deeper into it than certainly what they were suggesting to do. Mode Labs, if you take a look at this, pretty awesome. Obviously, there's tons of patterns and playlists, but I would recommend more than anything jumping in here and doing the beginner, intermediate, and advanced Grasshopper. I've been through it a few times, and I'm certainly going to go back and start scripting and seeing how fast I can do it. I'm running the videos at about 1.5 speed, so I'm feeling pretty happy about that. And I'll just leave this for a second and show you this pattern. I'm not going to go into the details of the script. You can try zooming in and doing it, but I would say go in and watch those videos. I might go to this end area where I did get in and I started to, and I'll show you that as I run it. I'm basically just going to go in here. I'm going to animate it, do it in a few frames. It takes a little while to load, but as that's developing and that's showing you what's happening here, running pretty slow, you can see the patterns that are starting to come up. And what I've done is after going in and building this series and dealing with the functions that they told you about to build your points, they push that through a called pattern and they allow you to bring in whatever called pattern you want. I'm using that later in a dispatch to build these Voronoi cells and numbering them. But they suggested since you've got a number point, one thing I've never done before is pulling out not only this data, but looking at the indices and using your index number, your list and item number to then use a modulus, which says, are you divisible by this, yes or no, and do you leave a remainder, and then use a gate for and, which means all these are true because they're just numbers coming out and they're actually real things, so they have to come up true. But when is it and the modular is true? And obviously the modulus is coming up. Yes and no in different scenarios. So if you take a look at what's actually coming out of that, you've got data running out of that, and the indices are running out of that. So it's basically got to say yes as a pattern, and it seems to do a pretty awesome job. That said, I could change that up very quickly by dispatching another pattern here, dispatching another pattern here. If I brought those call patterns into there, I'd have specific ones, but they wouldn't change as I kind of ran through the slider. What I liked about this one was it allows me to go in here and run an animation. And I'll just do that again. It takes a second to go. But otherwise, it's a pretty simple script. I've got it on the back of all the things they had shown in that tutorial. So they built some really nice files for you, which I think you should have from doing their webinar and their basic set. But once you build this file, it's really not about cutting and pasting it. It's about doing it. And you'll end up finding yourself doing things just like this, which I never thought I would. I'd find in my item indexes, I'd check modulus on that, and I'd use an AND gate plus a dispatch calling pattern, and then a dispatch later on to get to these patterns. I may end up using them for geometries. They're in 2 dimensions, and if you know anything about me, I like the sign, and I certainly like to start playing with the Z coordinate. I totally did not record any of that. I just did the whole thing, Mom, and didn't record any of it. Can you believe it? Maybe I did.